Hi there, it's Dr. JOYLYN Sparkles, and welcome to your Power Hour. This is your time to put what's on your mind on my mind, and we will put our heads and hearts together and find a way to go from stuck to happy as fuck in as short amount of time as possible, because time is of the essence, time is money, time is valuable, time is an illusion, but it's your time. And why waste any more time doing the stupid shit that we've been doing that's been making us feel less than awesome? Okay, so we're getting to it right now. Today, you are in for a treat because whether or not you knew it, and I'm telling you now, and it's only happened in my head, but I had two ideas for things that had been popping up, conversations with clients that have things, the funny things, funny, not funny things happening with my family. And, oh, should I write about this or this? And I was like, I'll do both. So we're going to talk about both. And how I titled this was, there is a such thing as a stupid question. I know a lot of us have been told there's no such thing as a stupid question. And there's a kind of answer to that as far as you can start from anywhere. So even if it's a stupid question, you can get to a better question. But there are some questions that are fundamentally unintelligent and will never actually get us to a better, happier, more elevated place. Okay? And let's just jump in then. I talk a lot in what I do. The goal is really to go from stuck to happy as fuck in as short amount of time as possible, because my movement from stuck to happy as fuck took a really, really long time, and it was excruciating and agonizing. And I'm sure that some people who were on the sidelines of that also felt the same, you know, watching me make the same mistake over and over, because it's, on one hand, part of the process. We are going to make mistakes. We are going to have to repeat things. And then it's also sometimes difficult to watch ourselves and others to suffer when we thought that maybe they had gotten the lesson or a piece of it. Nope, sometimes I'm just going to run the exact same experiment just to double, triple, quadruple check, okay? But life is cumulative, nothing is wasted, it all comes together. However, one of the things that did keep me stuck for a really long time was asking stupid questions. That now, being back here, I actually understand where I got that. And it's not just my family. It's not just any one person that I've noticed I've picked habits up from. It's actually from an entire reality, an educational system that looks to fix things and focuses on a problem. And we look at the problem, we study the problem, we create communities around problems, and then wonder why the problems don't go away. Because our whole connection, all of our energy and attention, and by giving energy and attention, we are actually showing affection for the problem. So it is getting appreciated, so it appreciates and grows. And so that's how one thing will look like it's getting a little bit better, but then another thing pops up and another caveat that we didn't discover, and it just keeps proliferating. A good example of this is, and these are mildly controversial here, but sunscreen and skin cancer. Skin cancer didn't go up and then sunscreen went up. It was the other way around, because we decided to pay attention to skin cancer or cancer in general. And so people got fascinated with cancer, so then all of a sudden there's more types and variations of cancer. There's more cancer center, there's more oncologists, there's more oncology centers. The whole thing really sort of blew up to where if we actually got as interested in health, think of how much farther ahead we might be. A similar one, I think that train already left. I don't even know. What was the other example I had? Don't know. Anyways, the same will happen in our interpersonal relationships. If you look at a problem, and couples and friendships sometimes develop around a problem of, we're going to rally around some sort of unfortunate experience. It could be anything. It could be domestic violence. It could be rape. It could be childhood abuse. It could be narcissists, abuse, like having gone into a relationship with a narcissist. It could be anything. And so we find friendships and connection based on our problems and then wonder why I keep getting in the same relationship. Well, if you're going to maintain that's your way of connecting and that's what you're appreciating and focusing on, it's going to continue to be there. So it gets back to, if we really look at how do we change this, okay? Because, okay, maybe I can pick up a little bit of what you're saying. I can see where, yeah, in my previous marriage, it would always be like communication. We got to work on communication. We've got this communication problem, and then we'd work on it, and then it'd be good for a little bit, but then all of a sudden there would be something else that was all communication. You know, I mean, I did that because I'm a communication nerd. But it was always just that there was a problem to work on, and if that was what was connecting us, or that's what we actually believed was the issue, that it messes things up, because then our problem is our point of reference, so that means everything else has to revolve around that. And this is actually, I'm seeing this going into a lot of family dynamics and people trying to diagnose each other. We've got a couple of medical, people, me and my mom and my other sister, they're nurses, I'm a doctor, and it'll be about, like diagnosing and what's wrong with this person, and I can see my mom almost like Winnie the Pooh, like think, and try to figure out what's the thing that's going on here, almost like a person or a situation is an episode of House, and if you just come up with a diagnosis, because have you ever noticed that the entire episode of House is them figuring out what it is, and then once they do, the person's better or getting better, like after the next commercial, and we're all good, right? But that's not real life. And it's been frustrating me watching this now, and one of the reasons I sort of left conventional medical modeling, even though I'm a naturopathic doctor, but leaving that conventional sort of setup was because there's so much value in coming up with a diagnosis as if that's the thing. And it will guide treatment for sure, but the real work comes once that has been delivered. Then it's, here's how we're going to treat and here's why we might be starting here. But then it's always figuring it out from there, what works, what doesn't work. That's the actual work. And the other thing that has started to really, like cramp my style and really grate on my sensitivities is that diagnosing is dehumanizing. Because we're complex and we're human, which means that we weren't really ever going to be perfect. And there's more than one thing going on all the time. And we're beings. We are not issues. We are not roles. We are not circumstances. So again, you may like it, not like it. You are not a diagnosis. You are not a fibromyalgia patient. You are a person who is dealing with a condition of fibromyalgia. And yeah, that's a lot more words, and so chart notes aren't going to support that. But it's time for us to start thinking about ourselves in a different way. I'm not depressed. I'm a person who has depressed tendencies. Even to the extent that we can stop being, and this is where the English language has some limitations, I'm not hungry and I'm not mad. I'm a person who is in a state or experiencing hunger. I am experiencing or aware of anger. Anger is running through my body now. And yeah, it will again, take more words, but it will be much more accurate and things will change. But you're also not your issue. A lot of us have a collection of diagnoses and, I'm bipolar. I'm anxious. I've got PTSD. I'm ADHD. No, you're not. You're a human being who has that as part of the experience. Because it's never what you're experiencing 100% of the time. Not ever. Never. And you're not just a victim or a survivor. And a lot of connection will be made by connecting on a shitty past. But we will get stuck there. Like if we're looking at stuck from happy as to happy as fuck, you can stay stuck indefinitely as long as you like, as long as you identify as that reference point. Something related to that reference point. I'm a victim, I'm a survivor, I overcame this. To where when I start talking about it, I have had multiple kinds of abuse in my life. Many different forms of trauma, both, situational, like the story kind, and the indoctrination programmed type. Humiliation trauma, neglect trauma, abandonment trauma. Like I've had all that in there, but somehow always knew that I wasn't that. And I wasn't a survivor of that. I did survive it, but that's not who I am. I'm actually just JOYLYN Sparkles, and I'm the creatrix of the Happiness Clinic, and I'm just a person who actually loves glitter. I like, what else do I like? I'm a nerd and I like rhymes. So we know I like rhymes. I like being in nature. There's just a ton of these. These are the things that make us human. I have this feeling and that feeling at the same time. I feel like this about this person and this about this person and this about me. And I have all these feelings, all of this wealth of experience. You're a being. You can never be so compactly defined as a diagnosis or an issue. And so when we try to do that to other people, or here's who we do it to the most, is ourselves, we dehumanize ourselves and try to strip away our humanity and the multidimensionality and the nonlinearity and the beingness of us to try to figure it out. And so in that, we tend to ask stupid questions because it's all geared, how we've been trained academically is to try to fix something or figure it out, which means we have to take this big thing and narrow it down, which in some ways that's essential to get infinite into human brain. But when we're trying to do that about ourselves and other people, especially ourselves, but we tend to ask questions like, what's wrong? What's wrong with this? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with me? And even Oprah and her, and I can't, Dr. Bruce, maybe that's his last name, they wrote a book and it's called What Happened to You? To try to change the question from what's wrong with you to what happened to you, knowing that a lot of how we're operating now is a product or result of what happened to us. Now that book stopped short just slightly because that's what it does, is just explain how you arrive there. It doesn't do a whole lot for how do you go beyond that, because you aren't just a survivor. Your past is not your entire story. And it doesn't have to determine the future. This is a choose your own adventure that you're actually in the process of writing, and you're the author, so you can really spin it in any way that you want. This is really exciting. But you will say, okay, so I've got infinite possibilities of who I want to be and how I want the story to turn out. How do you break things down? How do you get them into manageable pieces? And how do I go from stuck to happy as fuck? That's where I say questions are great tools to get us from one spot to the next, to get us the awareness and information that we need. But if we're asking questions like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with you? Or, we joke about it, but what else could go wrong here? But that's actually sort of an invitation, because questions are invitations. They're sort of like prayers to the universe. And another one that we ask incessantly is why? Why did it happen this way? Why? But when we ask why did it happen this way without a scientific, because here's the thing, the question itself isn't the problem, it's that we're using it that way. That's what makes it stupid. Is we're not really being cognizant, aware, and conscious of what we are actually asking for. Because if we are asking something, the universe will answer it. And if we're asking what's wrong with me, we will start to see evidence of what's wrong with me. Or at least our brains will then start shifting, the synapses and the neurochemistry will change to where we perceive everything as evidence of what's wrong with me. If we start saying, what else can go wrong? Then we'll start noticing either we'll start to see it and situations will crumble, or what really happens is that's what drives anxiety. What else could go wrong? Let me figure it out. Because at one point, somewhere in some time, that question actually saved us. It actually opened people's eyes, your eyes, like as far as we're tribal brain, and maybe saying, hey, but this could go wrong, and then preventing it. But then now that we do that with a whole lot of rehearsal and go way out of bounds with it, we just start to drive a lot of anxiety looking for things that could go wrong. So that then we're experiencing what could go wrong as if it was actually happening, and it rarely ever is. And then when we ask why did it happen this way? A lot of us, it's more of it shouldn't have happened like this. And if I'm actually asking, then why are you this way? Why am I this way? It's what I had a supervisor say, it's low quality information because it's a guess. And what we generally don't do is follow it up with an actual scientific methodology of, well, my hypothesis is this. Why is it this way? My hypothesis is this. So then I'm going to test it, or at least ask. If somebody does something and be like, why did they do that? I could actually say, hey, this is what happened. Did you say this because this? Or you said this and I felt this way. I was wondering, is this going on with you? And then you can actually start a dialogue and get more accurate information, but so few of us actually do that. And then there might be certain context and concepts or issues that we don't want to have that on. But if we continue just staying in guesswork and having no way to test it, we sort of just drive ourselves down and stay in fuck and, staying stuck as fuck, but I guess I wanted to say that word. And we just kind of go down and stay in our heads in theory, in thinking. That's where a lot of the overthinking is, thinking on things that we can't control or change and that we're not going to take any action on to get any clarity about. That is a surefire way to stay stuck. Okay? So with that, the other thing too is if you're wanting to move up the ladder of emotions and go from a stuck place to a happy place, a lot of people, and there is tons of research to support, gratitude is a way to do it. Gratitude's an alchemizer. It will change our perception and our experience of things, past or present, to change the chemistry that's going on and how we're associating things in a way that elevates us. So use that for absolute sure. Start with gratitude or include it. But I know that from my history and gratitude sort of being shoved down my throat, and I should be grateful for something that was actually hard, unfortunate, and wrong, like as far as a person was doing or saying something to me that they shouldn't, and telling me I should be grateful because it wasn't as bad as it could be, that was an emotional manipulation. So there's been a lot of work that I've had to do that perhaps you've also had to do to actually tease out real gratitude from emotional manipulation, to where gratitude wasn't necessarily an easy place to immediately go. But the one that has always worked for me, that is also universal and will change things but in a different way, is curiosity. Curiosity changes our brain. It actually starts to light up and stimulate dopamine centers so that it's opening learning centers in our brain. Dopamine does that, and curiosity is the one that instigates the release of dopamine. And so you're going to be open to new information. That's a big one, but why dopamine? Why is dopamine going there? Is because it's actually the anticipation of reward that stimulates the release of dopamine. And when it comes to curiosity and learning, it's the anticipation of the discovery. And what I love about curiosity is that one is under conscious control. And so we can direct it by asking questions. That's how we display and express our curiosity. If we refuse or get lazy with our consciousness and with our curiosity, it will go back and shuttle to the default subconscious, which your subconscious is never trying to destroy or sabotage you, but it is operating on memories, which may be trauma programming. So it's going to go into some stupid questions. What's wrong with me? How do I keep this from ever happening again? Which is the same as, how do I control this? Which is sort of similar to, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with this? What could go wrong? Those are fight or flight sort of questions. And so in and of themselves aren't necessarily stupid, but they have a level of ignorance as far as they can never get us out of that place. We are going to have to pull up our big girl and big boy pants and take conscious control of our curiosity and start asking more intelligent questions that are actually going to start delivering awareness and information about shit that we do want to know. So that when you're working with me or any of the Happiness Clinic programs, I talk about the future forward focus, because it's, instead of letting the past determine what questions we're asking, we're going to start lining up with the future, because that's who we are becoming is why we came. The trauma or whatever unfortunate circumstances that we've had was something that we chose to shape us and mold us and sharpen us into the best tool that we can be to deliver this magic that we came to see and witness, okay? We came for fun. We came to know ourselves. That's my belief. I didn't come to just pay bills and die. I didn't come by to just make it. And I didn't come by just to survive some trauma shit. I came because I somehow deep down knew I wanted to know me as an individual. Who am I? Which is interesting, because I came in with an identical twin. I knew I wanted to know happiness on a different level, so I had a whole lot of unhappiness in the early part to see, can I rise? How strong am I? I wanted to see my strength. And in those experiences, now I've created the Happiness Clinic to where I was like, God damn it, I wish it didn't take me so long to get this, because now things are awesome. And I wasted so much time wondering about what's wrong with me. And yes, I can see that I got that from some family, and basically our education system is trying to fix me as like if I was a problem, but that was me dehumanizing myself, which if you dehumanize yourself or anyone else, then it's easier to continue to abuse them with perfectionism, with eating disorders, with anxiety, with saying who I was is who I'm going to be. That's a form of abuse. Hi, stay in this box forever. That's like a coffin, but that's what we do to ourselves with these roles and titles and labels that we give ourselves. Oh, I'm an introvert, so I can never be extroverted. Oh, I'm an extrovert, so I can never just want to sit alone and read. It's bizarre, and it's a milder form, but it can become abusive if we refuse to let ourselves change. But it's easier to do that if we don't even really line up and embrace our humanity and the wholeness of us. So how can we get that is to be like, well, maybe I get curious about that. Instead of being like, okay, I'm going to develop gratitude for all that I've been in, because it really still actually sucks and is triggering right now. Okay, might not be the easiest buy-in. But okay, she's saying there's stupid questions, and what's wrong with me is probably my favorite, but what else can I ask? Here's where we go. The future forward focus is to get you to look at who are you becoming and what did you come to bring to the planet, and get curious about that and what lights you up inside. You know, what's like, when you think about it, like to me, glitter, hello, yes. Changing in the seasons, hello, yes. Love it. These are the things. So how do I get them to be part of my life? Oh, and then you know, we all know quite a bit about what we don't like, so we can be like, well, it's not this. Which this might be whatever trigger situation you're in. Well, I've seen how exhausted I get when I get really over angry. I can see how irritable I get when I go without sleep. I can see how I abandon myself when I'm around delicious food. I can see how I just cannot, like, hold in, like, somebody, I always say something and it sounds really stupid, or whenever I'm around this person or that person, like, they just get under my skin and I lose my cool and I just wish I was calmer. So we know, you're already aware of what it is that you're not super stoked on. But then my first question always with every program is, how do you want to show up then? Because you know you're tired of showing up small, diluted, hiding, overwhelmed, shut down, over communicating and ineffectively communicating, bad temper, what's super shy and unwilling to take a risk, afraid of everything. These are the things that we kind of know ourselves as presently, or something that we're struggling with presently. So then it's, how do you want to show up? Because just knowing you don't like this and this isn't great isn't enough. We actually have to know, how do I want to show up? That is a huge, different, empowering, intelligent question that's going to give you more enlightening information. So who am I and how do I want to show up? I want to be happy. That's what I've wanted to know for my whole life, is how to be happy. That's where even with business coach after business coach, set your money goals, set your money goals. I was like, I don't give a shit about that. I just want to be happy. And when I'm really actually happy, I know that money's going to be included in that, because I've had a lot of, poverty's been a lot of, the hard part. So I don't, and I will get to that, but really I just want to know happy first. I also have seen, I want to be confident. Because I came from a lot of eating disorder and walking into a room, being able to instantly size up everybody in size order and how much they weighed and what they're probably doing for a workout and where I might be on the pretty scale. Because all I knew was how to live comparatively. And I was like, it's driving me crazy. It's not very fun. I always end up somewhere at the bottom. And even if I felt like I was above somebody, then I knew I was a total asshole for even having this metric going on in my head. So there was a no-win situation. And I saw myself just get so highly irritable and a short trigger, which still does come out with technology. But I was just like, oh, and I could see people handle stuff with such calm demeanor and not getting uptight about stuff. And I was like, I like that. And here's where I'm actually I've been meaning to do it for a long time. I'm going to give a shout out to, I know she watches this. But my older sister, I see you, and I see how you handle stuff, and you don't get all hot and bothered like the rest of us do. And I noticed it, and I liked it. It's easy to be around. It's like shit's breaking down, and it's flying and splattering against the wall, and she's like, oh, that's happening, all right. It's time to eat. Does anybody want to eat? And it's just easier to be around, knowing that it's not that she's pretending it's not happening. It's also just that we're not going to fix it all at once, and we don't have to flip out that it's happening either. It's just, okay, we'll take care of it one step at a time. And she's done that over and over. And so she's actually been somebody that I've noticed, there's a model. And so I'm hoping that I can in some way, shape, or form be a model of, okay, I know it sucks right now. This trauma trigger is huge. It is in my face. This emotion is just like crashing wave over wave. But there's a person who's saying it doesn't have to be like this forever. And here's what she's doing. And that's what the self-love experiment is about, is to actually take this giant concept of what is self-love, because none of us grew up with unconditional love. It's what we want to know, and it's how we're starting to learn that we can start giving that to ourselves and filling ourselves up from the inside, so then we can be there better for other people. And what's funny is, there's always, sometimes we learn to love ourselves by giving love to somebody else, because then we know we have it to give. So there's so many facets and ways to do this, so it can get conflicting and confusing. So having somebody to ask questions to is great. So there's my plug, get me. I'm a good coach. Okay. How do I want to show up is a really good question. A simple twist is, what's right with me? We've been focusing so much on what's wrong, but why don't we build on our strengths? It's okay to do that. It's not being unaware or refusing to acknowledge your weaknesses. We've just been fixating on them so long and thinking if I fix it, that's how it's going to happen. But what if I just build on my strengths and say, what am I good at? What lights me up? And what's good about me already? Because nobody's 100% good or bad. Not any single person, including you. And the truth is there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're just human, which just means you're on the other side of heaven. So you've lost a little bit of connection with that infinite divine perfection. And we're aware of that, but that's not a wrongness. It's just a humanness. And so, what's right about me? What do I like about me? And what would I like to add to my life? Because we are in a super duper highly diet culture of what do I take out? What do I eliminate to try to make things work? How do I diagnose and simplify it into this simple, like this super complex thing? How do I get that one thing like he does on TV and then everything's better? It's not that way. And so to hold that complexity in there, but then, okay, maybe it's time to add some stuff. A huge one to add here is love, self-love. And I always say, if there's something you want to see in the world, put it there, because it has to flow through you to flow from you. So whether it's kindness, peace, gratitude, self-love, love in general, romance, I don't know, pick anything that you'd like to see more of in the world. Be it. Add it. That's how we add it. And then that is going to start changing your lived experience, your perception of who you are, and these more intelligent questions are going to start to roll out more easily, because then it's going to be more action-oriented, not about fixing it and trying to stop something or avoid something, because that's survival brain, and there's a place and time for that. That's okay. But it's going to be more into thrival brain, and how do I get more of this? Well, it's like buying the lottery. You can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket. I mean, so, I guess I buy a ticket. Or, I want to dance more. Oh, okay, what do I need? Feet. Okay, I think those are equipped. Do you need music, or do you like to dance silently? So then it's, I need more music. I've got to find some music. So then all of a sudden you're getting interested, and the content that you're focusing on is now music instead of news. Okay, I think that's an easy shift for getting from stuck to happier. And then I want to learn this type of dance. Okay, then you start watching videos. Maybe you join a class, and then you meet other people who are interested in this thing. And this is the way that we start to connect with our aliveness. This is how we get information and awareness that is enlivening and will contribute even more of that. These are the intelligent questions that are going to show us how to express ourselves more fully. Because we're not an issue and we're not just surviving. It's I came to bring something and I want to learn something. And the whole point, I believe, is fun. So what's fun for me? What lights me up? These are the kind of questions that I'd like us to be rethinking what we're asking, who we're asking, because a lot of times we're asking people who can't deliver for us and still just getting mad about it and then internalizing what's wrong with me, when it was really just I didn't pick the right resource, or I was asking a poor question. Because, this is a whole nother topic for another time, is having people guess instead of just directly asking them questions. So we'll go over that again, because I've had power hours on that, but I know we can have that again. I'm pausing to let all this sink in, because the fire hose setting is like full on right now, okay? But the takeaway here is diagnosing is dehumanizing, and it's a way to perpetuate abuse, which is what you know because it's what you saw. We don't have to do that anymore, and we don't have to define ourselves by anything from our past. We can just actually consciously take the reins and direct our curiosity towards the future that we would like to have, how we would like the story to start going now, and ask questions about how do I want to show up? What is the outcome I would like to have here? What is right with me? What would I like to add to my life? What lifts me up? These are the questions that are going to give us higher quality information so we can create higher quality ideas and beliefs and take higher quality actions on our behalf. I am going to stop there lest I start into a second power hour, which I so easily could because I love you so much. I just want you to have all of this because I wish this was here when I was going through these really, really horrible times and wondering so deeply and thoroughly what was wrong with me. The way to go from stuck to happy as fuck is to ask an intelligent question. And one of the easiest, best ones that you can do is, how do I want to show up? What's the outcome I'd like to have here? And what would I like to add to my life? What lifts me up? So there's actually like 4 or 5. Okay. And then from there, You know there's going to be some emotional intensity coming up and rolling through that with the releasing of some of these old patterns that were keeping you stuck. That's what I'm here for. Okay, and so very, very soon, enrollment's going to be opening for Love Yourselves, and in that I may actually also open it to the 6-week Get Unstuck and Happy as Fuck Challenge, because hey, it just sounds like the time is ripe for that. So stay tuned. I'll let you know about that. It's looking like April is when that's going to be happening. But until then, rethink your questions and start asking some more empowering, enlivening questions. And tell me about it. You can join the self-love experiment and join the chat group there and let me know about your attempts, the questions that you've been asking, and what you've been experiencing when you ask an empowering question. I want to know. I want to hear that shit because it lights me up, all right? You light me up. I want to hear from you. And until I do, I hope you are having a great day, and I will talk to you again next Wednesday for Power Hour. Mwah.